What's good, anime enthusiasts? Welcome to another episode review for Liar Game. Now, I've been wondering, whoa, it took you this long to get back on the Liar Game? Yeah, I'm sorry. Life happens, other things happens. Get tired after a bit, and the other videos that I've been doing, these other things kind of like take up the time and the editing process, and I'm getting to a new sleep schedule. All to say is things are happening, and I'm just getting myself on the back on track. And thankfully, using my time wisely because there's a holiday and I don't have to work on this particular Friday, which I am doing this recording, and I probably might get this video out the very same day. If I do get this out tomorrow on 4th of July, hey, happy Independence Day, happy 4th of July. Hope you guys have some fun eating and shooting off fireworks. But if you're waiting until that happens and you want to listen to something, hey, listen to me talk about Liar Game. And in particular, 5 episodes. 5, count them, 5, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. The ones that I've been missing these past several weeks and days. And I binged them all. And I'm glad I did, because both 9 and 10 are kind of together. And then, not kind of, they are together. And 11, 12, and 13 are on the new series. Also, I didn't realize we have more to come. I did not realize there's 2 cores for this anime. So I think we're getting 26 episodes, maybe. I don't know, maybe a little bit less than that, maybe more. Who really knows? But I'm here for the ride. And let's go. Let's just start into it. Let's go into episode 9 and then eventually 10. Episode 9, Light and Darkness. Episode 10, Salvation. What are we doing here? Well, last we left off, we're going through the downsizing game. And at this moment in time, now is on the back foot. She's not looking good. She's at the bottom of the barrel, especially after the 5th vote. It seems like she's giving up. But Fukunaga is like, yo, let's spice things up since you look so miserable. And we're kind of bored just sitting around until we get to the end. Let's play a game. Let's go one-on-one. If you win, you'll get 30 votes. And if I win, I get 30 million. Just for, playing the challenge. Now thinks about it, now accepts. Okay, what is this little game? Why is Fukunaga being so bored and risking everything? Well, the game is very simple. Fukunaga has a deck of cards, but she's only using 2. She's using a Joker and a card that is double backed, meaning that it has its back side as the front side, a quote unquote misprint. That does happen sometimes as well. Fukunaga says, hey, you want light or dark? Or lightness or light or darkness? And now it says, I like light. So, okay, cool. So the game is very simple. Both the double back card and the Joker be put into this red bag, and Fukunaga is going to shake it. She'll put the bag on the table, and now is going to draw one of those cards. And she has to make sure she doesn't see the face card. If she does, she's got to put it back, or she's the face side of the face card. So it's like, okay, cool. When now draws a card, she's going to flip it up, and if it's the Joker, which is the light side, she wins. And if it's the double back card, which represents darkness, Fukunaga wins. So okay, cool. And it's the first to 10 is wins. So the game is played, and now lost the game. Now, before the whole explanation happens, we're getting to it. I had to think about it. Like, I paused it. I was like, what is going on here? There's no way it's like a true 50-50. And of course, it isn't. And while Nao is off crying somewhere else, Akiyama appears out of the window. Akiyama learns of Nao's situation, and he gets the lowdown on the game. And as he explains, and as I thought, she lost at the rules. It's very simple. Why are you putting back the Joker if it's flipped face up, right? So it's not a true 50-50. And the only way Nao wins is that if she turns up the Joker. But if she turns up, quote unquote, the double back card, she loses. But every time she pulls a card, it has to be on the back side. But if she pulls the Joker, it's going to flip face up, and she has to put the Joker back. So that quote unquote 50-50 is now a 1 in 3 chance, because she has to put the Joker back. And so statistically in odds, Fukunaga is going to win almost every single time. So when Nao learns of that, Akiyama was like, yo, go back and get what you lost. It's like, okay, cool. We're gonna try again, round 2. This time it's 50 million for Nao to play, but she's only gonna get 10 votes. All right. New game is played, and of course, it looks like Nao is gonna be losing at the 9th card, with Fukunaga only needing 1 more. She picks up the double back card, and then she puts it back into the bag. Cool. And as the game goes on, Nao wins. And Nao is all smug. I like this kind of Nao. And so, what's going on? How did Nao win? It's very simple. Nao marked the double back card. And that's how she was able to learn which is which as she's feeling around in the bag. And every time she felt around, she didn't need to pull. While she was feeling around, when Fukunaga got suspicious, they always check the Joker, but not the double back card. Because why would you check the double back card? You already know the double back card is already in your favor. The Joker must be meaning something. How is she getting the Joker every single time back to back to back? The odds are in your favor. And so that was that. And even before then, Akiyama told Nao to lead with just pull at the correct rate. Like 2 out of 10 times you should be losing. So pull the double back card a bit more than you would the Joker, so that wasn't arouse suspicion. And of course, Fukunaga fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Now got 10 votes. Okay, so after the game, after Nao wins, she gets the 10 votes. Those 10 votes is tallied after the 6th vote happens. And when whenever see the changes, suspicion kind of grows between other people. The game continues on as usual, but after the 8th round, Nao starts to scheme. What she's doing is she's talking to this other guy, and she's like, hey, you're like the best person that's gonna go into the 3rd round against Fukunaga. Like, you're gonna be a leader. Like, she's gonna be up a lot of money, and she's gonna need like somebody to compete against her. And then I was like, hey, I got 70 million. I'll give you the 70 million in exchange for 10 votes. And the dude goes like, yeah, sure, why not? Let's go for it. And also she like tells a spill about a story about there's other losers that are playing the revival game, and there's an open seat due to a dropout, and she'll only get a certain amount of votes. It's all good and stuff. So, and now it's like, hey, I'm also gonna help you out in this 3rd round once I get through. So the 9th vote happens, but in the movement of the votes, every other person except Fukunaga gave Nao 10 votes. And then Akiyama reveals himself finally to everyone and starts aura farming. What's going on? Episode 10, Salvation. Everything Nao just said to that one guy, she told to everybody else. It was a lie. Well, mostly her story about the other people playing a losers round and everything. But she was truthful in giving everybody 70 million at the end of the 10th round. Because, the liar game is about lying. And while they're all like spouting nonsense about how is Akiyama allowed, it's like, well, he's one of Nao's possessions. Kind of weird, but is whatever. So, and now question, okay, how is Nao going to pay all this money? Well, Akiyama kindly directs everyone's attention to the board, saying, you should be worried about this disparage in the votes. How are y'all gonna make it into the 3rd round now that y'all are giving up your votes? And Akiyama and Nao like, yo, we're willing to sell the votes to the highest bidder. So Akiyama sets up a system or like a merchandising business to where he will sell the votes that Nao has, 2 votes at a time, for a certain price. And these 2 bozos come up first and they pay for it. And as people are buying out these votes, the price keeps getting higher and higher and higher, up until the point to where people are kind of like, I don't know if I want to buy these votes to increase myself. So one of the guys named Sato's like, oh, I got an idea. If these prices are going high, I should sell the votes I have to other people, and then I'll make enough money to where not only I pay the debt for this game, but the rest of my debt, and I can walk away with some money. Well, he does so, but now everybody else knows he sold his votes, so now they want to buy any of other his votes because now he's at the bottom and they don't have to worry about it. So then Sato goes back to Akiyama, and now the cycle continues as he buys his votes. And it keeps going up until the point to where both Nao and Akiyama now have 900 million bank. And Nao says 5 votes left. The others start making the pitches and the arguments, but you know, why bother when they didn't bother out hearing out Nao when she was down in the dumps? So Nao puts her vote slip in. The final results the final results are shown, and Nao is in first place with 51 votes. Everyone else starts getting named and called out as they're getting 50 votes. They're in second place. Even good old Fukunaga. Well, who's in last place? It's Mira, the punk guy. Why is he the loser? Well, Nao explains that, well, he was the one that came to me when I was crying. I trust him. So Mira is going to unfortunately lose. But Nao just goes off on a little explanation of saying, hey, what's her, she explains like what is a liar game to her, or what it truly means. It's like a zero-sum game to where you're not supposed to like win by tricking people or dropping out. Well, you can drop out, but that's the only way that the liar game official people, that's how they make money. If you don't drop out but you pay out the losers, they gain nothing and you just move on. So instead of a bit about a game to where you're supposed to like lie to keep people down, it's a game to where you're supposed to save people. They're testing your ability to beat the temptation to make yourself a liar, which is but you know, it's her, it's Nao. So Nao gives Mira an in ticket worth 200 million to not only pay off the debt when he loses, but also to pay his day up so he'll go free and nothing to worry about. And Nao will be giving the rest of her money back to everyone so that they all can move on to the third round, debt free, clear, let's go. And then we had a little look behind the curtain to where Lenoria is like behind the cameras. So that's episode 9 and 10, the end of the downsizing game. And Akiyama appearing, but you know, now it's gotta have somebody to not only save her in order to like tell her, hey, this is how you kind of do things. But now kind of like did things on her own, which is cool. That was kind of what I wanted. I wanted Nao to have a moment to herself to where she can like shine without Akiyama, and this was kind of it. It was sort of it. It was partially it, so I can be a little bit content with that. Now it sounds like Nao has a naive notion of how the liar game also is supposed to be. Like, you're not supposed to be the temptation of being a liar. You're supposed to save everyone. That's kind of a way to think about it. I never thought about it. You think regularly it's a tournament. You're supposed to win. You're supposed to make money. And then you dip out when the going's hot. Or if you think you can make it even more big, you know, just keep going to the end to where you can be doing something else for like big amounts of money. But now it's like, yo, it's supposed to be some like nice thing, which bless her heart. So that's pretty much it for there. At this point, I'm kind of thinking, okay, the anime's fine at this point. Like, it's kind of going off a little bit, but you know, we're chilling, we're cool. I'm not saying like the anime's bad or anything. It's just like for a different type of crowd, and in like the overall space, not everybody's gonna like it. Not everybody's gonna like the pace of it. Not everybody's gonna like Nao. You would kind of think that this is more about Akiyama, and this is Akiyama's story, and this is like we're telling it through the lens of how Nao sees it. But now Nao has made that big proclamation of how the liar game is supposed to be. So now we're thinking, okay, maybe Nao is like part of the main cast, or she is the main cast, and she isn't like off to the wayside. But now we're all kind of moving ahead to the third game, so now she will also see what Akiyama sees. We'll go and see what happens there. And now we'll get into these other 3 episodes that are tied together, centered around a singular game. my favorite game out of everything that we've seen seen so far, and one game that I would actually want to play in real life, which would be really cool, is starting with episode 11, Contraband Game. So this is directly after the game ends, everybody being told, hey, return to the bowling alley in 2 weeks for the third game. And when Nao and Akiyama go out to debrief and like chill, Nao's like conflicted because she wanted to use the money that she earned from the others to get Akiyama out, but she had to use it to bail everyone else. And Akiyama was like, it's whatever. And Nao is so unsure of herself and like around other people. So, and then Akiyama says some profound things. And like this line of words is like truly profound. It's like, what many people do under the guise of trust is forsake actually getting to know others. That's not trust, it's indifference. Doubting people isn't wicked. True wickedness comes from indifference. So this is more Akiyama helping Nao understand how doubting people are like not being so trustworthy people. You're not being evil or bad, or you're not downplaying them. You're just thinking. You're trying to get to know the person themselves, right? It's not so much about the fact that when you meet a stranger for the first time, you're not immediately thinking, oh, this person's bad or whatever. Or you have preconceived notions about stereotypes about whether it's skin, a nationality, race, all that good stuff. That's not truly that's the true wickedness, quote unquote. That's from indifference if you're like hard typing, stereotyping. But if you're getting to know the person as you're talking, and if they kind of tell you a lie or they tell you a story and you're not like, are you sure that's right? Are you sure you're telling the truth to me? And you're not like being indifferent to them. You're trying to like actually know the person. So doubting is the same as, weeding through and trying to get to the core of who that person actually is. And if you're like Nao, who you're just on the surface level trusting everybody, you're not getting to know them. You're just thinking that they're like the truth, or you always think that they're good, and you're not actually putting enough effort to know who they are. You're just taking them at face value. Wow. So with that, afterwards it's the day of the time where they go to the venue, and Nao gets a little cart. The players get on the bus and they head to the next venue, which is an airport. Time passes, and so now we learn, what is this third game? Well, the third game is about traveling between two different countries. The team competition called the Contraband Game, and it's going to be the most complex game that we've ever seen in this, so buckle up. There's going to be 2 rooms, aka 2 countries, the country of day, the country of night. The story is these 2 countries' relationship has soured, and they're going to go to war in 72 hours. The players on both teams have money in the opposite country, and the goal is to retrieve it before the war happens. So it's not going to be seized, and you're going to get your money, you're going to take it to a third country where it's safe, like Switzerland, like a Swiss bank. Like in modern times, it's going to be very difficult to move a large amount of money across the border because of the border inspection. And so we get a practice round of how it's going to happen. Both countries / teams are going to be on offense and defense. One person is going to be on offense, to where they will send one of their players as the smuggler to move across the airport and to get to the other side. On the other side, there's an ATM where they withdraw their money. The money goes into a briefcase, but the briefcase only have 100 million in cash. There's going to be 300 million in the bank for each individual character. And each individual character, aka player, is going to have 100 million already in the country. In the third country, the Swiss bank. So there's 400 million in play for each and every person. Cool. Once a smuggler gets to the inspection border with the amount of money they withdrew, they're going to go into a room. It's a soundproof room that you won't hear anything from the outside, and everybody on the outside can't hear anything on the inside. But everybody on the outside can see on the inside and see what's going on. Well, who is the inspector? The inspector is going to be one of the other players on the other team. and they have to figure out if the smuggler has contraband, aka cash. They put the briefcase on the table, and they can ask any questions or observe the person with the briefcase, but they can't touch the briefcase. That's a number one rule. They have 10 minutes to deduce whether or not there's money in the briefcase or not. And so the inspector can either do two things. They can either pass or they can doubt. But if they doubt, they'll declare a number, that number being how much cash they think is in the briefcase. And so there's 4 scenarios going to happen. If the inspector passes, then the smuggler gains money if the money is actually in the briefcase, or the smuggler gains nothing if nothing is in the briefcase. If the inspector doubts and the case is empty, then the inspector, that particular inspector, pays out damages equal to half the declared amount. So if the inspector guesses 10 million and the case is empty, then they have to pay out 5 million out of their own account to the other person. If the inspector doubts and the amount declared is over the amount that the smuggler took, then the money is seized by the inspector and the smuggler gets nothing. So if the smuggler took 50 million and the inspector said, oh, there's 60 million in there, well, it's over the amount that the smuggler took, and so the inspector gets the full 50 million to himself personally. Cool. And the inspector doubts and the money the inspector doubts and the money declared is lower than what the smuggler took, then the smuggler gets the money, and on top of that, they get half of the declared amount as damages. So, like say before, let's say the smuggler took 50 million, but the inspector said, oh, you got 30 million there. Well, the smuggler is going to get 50 million, and on top of that, half of 50 million because the inspector guessed lower. So in total, they get 75 million. Whoa! And so both teams will then pass it off. Like Day Country will be a smuggler, then they get the inspector, and they keep going as a full round there. And there'll be 50 rounds. The team with the most money will be the winner. And there's all this talk about money being switched and transferred and all that jazz, but we kind of know the gist of what's going on. And so now we got to decide, okay, who's on whose team? Well, the day team is actually everybody in attendance, being Nao, Akiyama, Fukunaga, and everybody else that was in the loser revival. And the night team is a whole host of new characters that we've never seen before. After that, we get a little small little behind the scenes where now we have a new proctor, Nerko, who alongside Lernia are, overseeing everything. And they're talking, and Leonera is like, no. Well, Leonera says that now has his attention as like a very important prospect, while Nerko talks up Yokoya, some other dude on the 19. And that's episode 11. I like the premise of this game. Well, not premise, the setup of this game. It sounds fun. It sounds amazing to do. Cool on Akiyama to appeal to Nao and to get her back on, well, not get back on course, but like help her understand how to, navigate these next few interactions that she's going to have, which is going to be very important because episode 12, Yokoya, is this whole entire game being played out. There's a lot of explanations and sequencing that's going on, so I'll try to keep it brief and say the more important parts. So how it all goes out is that the day team trying to decide who goes first now decides yo, I'll go first, and she grabs with the Grandmaster plan to never take money and let the others keep doubting and they get the money. Sounds nice, sounds easy, but it's probably the first thing that everybody's going to think of. So now is the first we'll say victim to go through everything. As she makes her way through, goes to the ATM, takes money, trying to act like there's something in the briefcase. She gets inspected and the guy passes her. And as you see, the other people on the teams can see above in the glass. And so now from here, we just move along as we see in the game. We get our inspector. Of course, they unfortunately passed the other team, but the other team had 100 million in the briefcase, and so they steal 100 million from us. And then from there, we're just on a losing trend. So Akiyama steps up to be the next inspector. Akiyama tricks the guy with a nice little, "Oh, you dropped some money." Well, how do you drop the money when the guy locked up the briefcase tight? And so the guy, unfortunately, through that trick, exposed himself as saying, "Yeah, he got some money in there." Akiyama says 100 million, they get 100 million. Easy. Now the 19 knows they can't always take 100 million anymore. Now they gotta, like, do a little trickery of their own. And so the game continues, and we're starting to make some kind of headway. We're kind of getting there. But now the boss of the other team appears. Yokoya. This guy with the mouse. And unfortunately, he gets through with 100 million. And he even goes up against Fukunaga at one point, where Fukunaga's where he's the inspector. And he calls himself a psychic and a clairvoyant. And he sees through Fukunaga's plan of taking 50.01 million. Oh no, things are terrible. So the game goes on, and Yokoya is going through a tear on our team, like completely calling out the exact number down to the decimal. But one of our allies, he thinks, "Oh, I think I figured something out." So he goes and he specs, and he gets a 100 million call out. Cool. So now he says, "Oh, you know what? I got a reliable way to get money out of the other team." Okay, cool. This episode, not really much happens, except we get Yokoya, the next rival / boss. What matters is everything that happens in the next episode. To where, how do we get this reliable way to figure out if they got money? So the guy who figured it out is Kikuzawa, and he wants another chance to prove his theory. And he does. He gets another 100 million. And so he says that the idea is that as long as you know they have some amount of money, you always doubt 100 million, no matter what. Why? Because if they take less than what you declared, you always take everything, no matter what. So even if they have like 1 million, you bet 100 million every single time. You get a million, but you always are sure that you always never bet lower than the maximum. So we're like, all right, cool. And as Kikuzawa goes up again, Akiyama's like, "Yo, now, beware of Yokawa. See if you can sniff anything out from him." And so as Yokoya and now kind of talk it out, they start to share theories. And Yokoya kind of sniffs like, "Hey, yo, I know Akiyama's on the other team." And now kind of like be nice and shares her own theory on how Liar Game exists and works. And Yokoya's like, "This game is about testing to see who can take control. And that's like the fundamental truth about the world. When you are able to take control, then you're good. You're chilling. That's gonna become really important later." And so now also kind of like proves that Yokoya isn't really like clairvoyant psychic. Because if he actually is psychic and kind of knows what's in the briefcase, then he should have known that there was a teddy bear in the case instead of money. He didn't say there was a teddy bear in the case, and everyone was surprised that why is there a teddy bear in the briefcase? Makes sense, Yokoya isn't truly a psychic. You should have said something. Meanwhile, Kikuzawa, he gets another call out. He's made like a whole bunch of million yen. And now he's starting to be very bossy, very aggressive. And he's taking up a lot of space. And he's talking himself up because, like, yeah, I'm the one that's only been like doing well so far. I've been making all these correct call outs. Y'all need to follow me as leader. Now understands what Yokoya was talking about. He is taking control. He has most of the money. And he's assuming himself to be the leader, and he wants to be called Sama. Of course, Fukunaga, Nao, and Akiyama don't bend the knee. Game continues, and both Kikuzawa and Yokoya are keeping up their streaks. And at some point, Kikuzawa was like, he's about to go do his thing, but suddenly he just falls ill, and he wants somebody else to go and be inspector. And so when that happens, Nao and Akiyama, they start talking shop by themselves. They're like, 290 million was made by this guy. And then Akiyama figures out the secret between Kikuzawa's surefire trick. And after watching the round play out, Akiyama believes that both Yokoya and Kikuzawa are using the same exact trick. So, in order to figure that out, decide on next smuggler, Kikuzawa is going to be telling the next person to say, hey, yo, take 91.11 million. And then Akiyama just interjects saying, yeah, it's a reasonable plan. Hey, Sato, take these instructions. I went to and graduated from university and I got a degree in psychology. This little paper is going to have a whole bunch of tricks on body language in order for you to use against Yokoya. Do this, you'll be fine. So in the showdown, Yokoya does fail to see the 91.11 million and not the actual 91.12 million. And so we win that round. And the reason being is that Kikuzawa and Yokoya were colluding this whole entire time. Because previously in the last episode, when Kikuzawa and Yokoya were having their own little meeting, they were in there for almost a full 10 minutes. And they decided to collude. So there's no psychic powers, there's no clairvoyance. It's all just straight trickery and lying. And Akiyama just lays down every single fact and declaration. And so it puts Kikuzawa in a tough bind. And then he just confesses everything. And the last thing we hear and see is that Kikuzawa has met Yokoya before at school. But he was underneath Yokoya's thumb ever since then. Interesting. So yeah, we're building up Yokoya as to be one of these big time bosses / rivals that we have to go up against. And dang, we just got bodied again and betrayed. What do you expect? It's Liar Game. It's theatrics. It's suspense. It's the thriller. It's fun. I'm having a blast with it. It's nice to see that Nao is still kind of like coming out of her own and figure things out. It's good. It's good. I like it. And of course, Akiyama being the big boss himself, like figure everything out. That's cool. But still, I like the setup of the game. I really do wish I could really play it in real life. That would be really cool to like have a bunch of friends do it. But I digress. But we're kind of, I guess we're like halfway through the season now, because there's like another core that's gonna be coming up as episode 14 is coming out next Monday, I believe. And at this point, if I were to give Liar Game a rating, I give it like a 6.8. I like it. It's fine. I'm kind of getting the feeling that Nao won't be like as prominent as like learning of things. That she's still gonna be like the very altruistic, positive, 100% chaotic good person that she is, which is still fine. But I would like for her to be a little bit more smug, a little bit more lies, and a lot less reliant on Akiyama. Then again, Akiyama is also wanting to go through the tournament to learn about the organizers and everything. And also, I do 1 through 2. It's curious. It's a very curious thing to worry about. So I kind of want to. I'm expecting the final reveals to be decent at best. Let me be surprised. I don't want anything to be like easy to guess and that sort of thing. But yeah, those are my thoughts so far. We got through 5 episodes already, so it's chill. Like I said, I'm having my fun. Y'all in the comments below, let me know what y'all thinking about Liar Game so far. If you still hanging around, if you dropped it, this or that, all that good stuff. I like talking and conversing. Now that I've caught up, we will finally still be on track as I try to fit Liar Game in my schedule. Of course, we are also in the new season, so there might be some other episodes about other things going out. But of course, I've got Mukusho Tensei on the block, where me and JD are going through season 2 of that, and then eventually we'll be into season 3. And I'm playing Genosha. We're almost kind of done with that. And Captain Tsubasa, I gotta get some more playthroughs of that. But a light game, we're still on track. Hopefully I can get back to this weekly. If not, we'll binge a couple episodes and do like a review on those. But that is enough from me. Hope all of you have a good day, night, evening, morning. Yes, I hope you have money. Morning, night, wherever you are in the world. And I hope your day is just a little bit better than it already is. Happy 4th if this comes out on the 4th. If not, hope y'all have a nice little eats and happy holidays. With that, we'll catch y'all in the next episode. Peace.